Good morning. Welcome to the Cybersecurity Studio, and I'm your host, John Dittmer. Today is Sunday, February 23rd, 2020. First of all, I'd like to give a special thanks to a lot of my friends out there on LinkedIn and Facebook who've been providing me hints about how to improve it. I'd like to give special thanks to two special ladies. The first of all is Robin Burke, who's a managing director at a company called Advanced Analytics 2. She has quite an extensive science and technology background. She's given TED Talks. She also taught at West Point. So I kind of follow her on LinkedIn and some other sites to learn more how to be a better presenter. Second one is Captain Sean McAndrew, U.S. Navy. She is the professor of naval science and the commanding officer of the Navy ROTC unit at both Washington State University and the University of Idaho. So she has to travel a lot between both sites. I had the privilege of working with her on the board of directors of the Sea Services Leadership Association. So it was quite a privilege, and I learned a lot from her. And she's recently given me a lot of hints about looking into the camera, how to present myself better. So I just wanted to give her and Robin Bird special thanks. Okay, a couple of things I'd like to present before I actually get into the topic of risk. Some people have asked me, like, who's your intended audience? I have actually two intended audiences. The first is people who want to know more about cybersecurity. You read about it so much in the news. You hear a lot of things like, don't do this, don't do that. I'm trying to do is present a logical progression about here's what cybersecurity is and understand the basic concepts and how to work it. My second audience is that those who already know a little something, but they want to know more, they actually want to work in the field. This is not intent, to be a series about getting you ready for the CIS exam, for example. But what I want to do is at least make you informed, so this way, no matter where you go in the field, you know what you're doing, or what that part of the field is all about. Unlike a lot of people in cybersecurity, instead of having this deep background in one little thing, mine's more like wide open. I've done stuff in encryption. I've done stuff in ComSec. I've done physical security. I've done security management in terms of personnel security and documentation security. I've done scanning. In fact, last 2 weeks I've completed the HBSS and the ACAS courses. Those are two DoD programs that does scanning of networks, and then also to help the work configure or give you feedback on the status security on your systems. And so I've got sort of a wide background on how to do a lot of this stuff, but what I'm going to do is give you an orderly progression of here's what cybersecurity is about, and here's a lot of concepts. And today's topic is one of those important concepts: risk. Life can be pretty messy. There's a lot of uncertainties involved. And if you're going to be successful in cybersecurity, you have to be able to understand what risk is and how to manage around it. And I want to introduce you a few concepts before we start talking about security risk management in the next episode. Okay, first let's talk about threat. A threat is possible damage that might exploit a vulnerability to breach security and therefore cause possible harm. Okay, like one possible threat is, hey, I might have weak encryption, and there'd be a possibility that weak encryption could lead to a data leak or something like that. Okay, a vulnerability is a weakness that can cause to be exploited by a threat actor to perform unauthorized actions. I'll give you an example. Let's say you don't have a good personnel security program. You're not really vetting people. So you might get some insiders that might have an issue. Somebody got passed over promotion, or somebody has a personal agenda that they want to take down a program, or they want to stop something, or they want to leak something for their own personal agenda. Okay? So right there you have a weakness and a vulnerability that could be exploited. So keep that in mind when you're setting up a security program. Another concept is impact. It is the extent of the damage or the loss or the harm. Okay? So impact plays a lot into when you're figuring out the risk, because you have to make judgment calls. Okay, how much money do you want to put into your program? Okay? If your impact is loss of life, loss of classified information, which some cases, if you talk about like TS, top secret, and you're talking about exceptional grave damage to national security, money's going to be put into that. Okay? Also, loss of operations. Or nuclear operations. If you're running a nuclear reactor, you pretty much have to be on 100% of the time. So that's when you start doing mitigations. Like, for example, you're going to have backup systems. So if your primary system goes down, you have a backup. You might have to have a backup for the backup. Okay? Because there's some operations that you can never let go down. Okay? Because that's when you start having loss of life or loss of operations. Okay? Because, like, let's say something's controlling the reactions in a nuclear reactor. All right? And you don't want that radiation to leak. You don't want people dying. You don't want to be able to say, or you don't have to bury that reactor like they did at Chernobyl. So that's when you start to have to think in terms of what's the impact and what mitigations you're going to put in place or remediations. Okay? And when I talk about remediations and mitigations are those activities that kind of sort of like, they're sort of like a temporary fix in order to either limit the damage that could be caused. Remember the old story about the little Dutch boy who put his thumb into the dike when it was starting to leak? And he kind of saved the day because he kind of prevented the flood before people were able to fix the dike. That's sort of a mitigation. Okay, and then a remediation is like, okay, you're completely removing the threat for the long term or the weakness for the long term. Okay, so those are two concepts you need to know when you start dealing with risk, because a lot of times when you're removing security vulnerabilities, you got to think of, if I can't fix it right away, what mitigations can I put in place, or what is the best way to remediate this for the long term? Okay. Now let's talk about risk itself. Risk is the potential for uncontrollable loss of something of value. Okay. Now what I mean by that is, like, for example, you're going to work. You get up in the morning, you get yourself ready, you get dressed, you get in your car, you jump on the bus or the train or the subway, and you get to work. Okay, that might seem pretty mundane. But I live in Northern Virginia. A lot of things could happen. I was here when 9/11 happened. I was thinking I was just going to work. Surprise! A lot of things happen. A lot of things can happen. And you have to be prepared, so in case that black swan event happens. Now, a black swan event is something that could potentially happen, but the likelihood is very low. But when it does happen, it has huge effects. So when we start talking about this, it actually can be broken down to qualitative and quantitative terms. Qualitative is like, what do we want to protect? Well, it's loss of life. That has obviously going to take your priority in order to fix it. Okay? When you're talking about loss of operations, depending on the top operations, like you're talking about nuclear reactor or medical, if somebody's on life support in an intensive care unit, well, guess what? You better have a backup generator in case the power goes down. So think in those terms. Now, when you talk about quantitative measurement of risk, there's a famous equation, which is risk equals likelihood times damage or impact. Okay, so when you talk about the likelihood of loss, like what are the odds of it actually happening? And then you multiply that by the damage or the impact. So you can get into some pretty good mathematical equations. If you're really interested, Google it or go into Wikipedia. Has a lot of good in-depth map and have several different ways that you can do the actual math. Now that I've kind of laid the case of what is risk and some of the basic concepts, in my next episode, I'm going to be talking about risk management. Okay, if you'd like to see more videos and support me as I make better, more informative videos, please give me your support at www.patreon.com at John Dittmer. I put the label up at the top. I appreciate your support, and if you do provide some support, I'll give you a shout out. All right, take care and have a safe day. Bye.